Oh, okay.
Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Andy. Good to see you.
It's great to see you. And, I've been looking forward to this for a while now. And it's been just trying to get our kind of schedules together so we could have a chat. And I really appreciate it today. And there's a lot for us to talk about for sure. So you very kindly sent me some copies of Understanding the Silent Communication of Dogs, and that's when I really got a chance to get a kind of a vibe really for how you look at animals. And it's such an amazing book. We're going to come on to your books a little bit later, Rosie.
Yeah, sure.
And we've had some conversations kind of off air, and yours is definitely I think there's two types of voices really within this. People call it a paradigm shift. I don't know about that, but definitely look at things through a new lens. And yours is one of the truly authentic ones.
Oh,
And that's come, I think, as we're going to find now, from your own personal journey, right? And the things that led you to kind of think differently and look at things differently. And I think there's two types of people. There are those who are lucky enough to find situations and mentors, if you like, who help them develop a different look. And there are those who end up with that dog in front of them who's like, do you know what, everything you think you know, you can forget that. All that other stuff is just not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And you've had a bit of both there. You were lucky to have some really good influences.
Yeah, very lucky. Yeah.
But it all kind of started with one dog, Chaos. We're going to come on to that in a mo. But tell us a bit about your story then, Rosie, and about your first kind of connection to dogs and how you got interested in dogs in the first place.
Okay. Well, as a child, we had a dog called Sally, and she was a boxer Labrador cross. And I kind of related to her because I was often naughty. And so I'd escape round the side of the house with her, and we'd share dog biscuits.
Nice.
Yeah. The Win-A-Lot ones, that time. So yeah, I didn't like them very much. But anyway, yeah, she was the first dog really that I related to as a young child. And then later, I had my own dogs within a marriage. This was my husband brought back a German Shepherd puppy. I'd asked him not to get a German Shepherd because they had a bad reputation at the time, and with children. And I had a 2-year-old, well, a baby. And anyway, it was great. She was a great dog, fantastic dog. I had to leave behind when I left the marriage because I took my daughter with me, and I felt I couldn't take his dog, although she wanted to be with me. She was communicating really clearly. She was first upstairs when there was any trouble. She was the one in the bathroom, and then we followed her up. And anyway, and that's a long story, but we got away from that. I was really sad to this day to leave Sadie behind. I felt bad about that. Then because of that abusive relationship though, I felt I could understand dogs a lot better, and that was more evident later on in my life. When I met Sheila Harper, I could relate so many dog situations to my experiences as a battered wife then, if you like. My first dog away from that relationship was Benson, who was a Labrador cross, Great Dane. He was just a wonderful dog. I did put him in situations I didn't realise he didn't like. But, everybody did back then. It wasn't good always, but anyway, yeah, he was a great dog. Then I had Shenzi, who was a Great Dane. And these are all rescue dogs, by the way, She was a Great Dane, and she came to live with Benson and I and my daughter. And when she came in, she kind of took over and dominated Benson. But at the time, advice was to let her be top dog and he was the underdog. Well, I could see he was visibly depressed, and I resented Shenzi because my Benson was depressed. It was a shame I didn't know what I know now, because I could have worked with them both and they both would have been happy. But a lot of the things I was doing then, without going to training or anything, was in the right direction. Because Shenzi had issues with dogs, I would walk where there weren't dogs, and that helped her. She used to rip up quilts, and when we went out, open door handles and rip up quilts. So I put a lock at the top of the door, and so, you know, she didn't need to do that anymore. Okay, I wasn't addressing the emotional side for her. Why was she doing that? But, you know, I was going in the right direction and things weren't too bad. Then eventually I started to learn about animal welfare, and that's when when I focused on dogs, that's when I started to get more problems. They had, well, it was a problem for them, and that's when I started to make dogs unhappy, actually.
That's interesting.
And yeah, and I went running with Henry as well, because I thought dogs like that. I now know that they don't. I can see that they don't. I can see their communication, and it's very clear. And they don't have a choice when they come running with you. They're vulnerable. They can't stay behind on their own. They have to be with their person. So yeah. Anyway, he died quite young because I was also doing pet sitting, running a pet sitting business, and I knew he wasn't keen on all the dogs that came into the house, but there were, I only had one at a time, but all the same, it's a dog in and it's his space, and, you know, so that was difficult for him. In the end, he ended up with inflammatory bowel disease, and had to wear a muzzle on top of everything else, had to wear a muzzle. So he didn't eat other food because they were trying to treat him at the vets by just eating one type of food, which was dried biscuits from the vets, kind of thing. So anyway, he had a rubbish and happy life, really, and died age 6, I think. Yeah, 6. So from my pet sitting business, I had a dog called Jaffa, a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. The lady got pregnant and didn't want the dog and a baby. So because I was looking after Jaffa anyway, I said I would have her. She asked me, I said yes. I thought she'll fit in, you know, she'll just fit in, not I'll look after her. So anyway, she turned out to be a wonderful little dog, and through Sheila Harper, I began to understand more about dogs, and I could see a lot more, so I was able to help her. And because I was listening to her and understanding her, her health issues, mitral valve disease and syringomyelia, became less of a problem to her, because she was calling the shots and walks. She would say how far she wanted to go, and I was careful not to put her with lots of dogs and stuff like that, just managing the stress for her. So yeah, she was a happy dog in the end. So yeah.
It's interesting, I think. Thank you for sharing with us about your personal circumstances at the beginning of that story. And I think there's a lot of people who I've spoken to who they'll be able to relate to that. Kim Brophy, of course, in her very powerful TED talk, started off with her own experience of feeling, somebody else exerting power over her, and how that connected. And I think that story up to the point we're at now is very much one of shifting perceptions. Obviously, your own perception of self and your need for safety, and that was really important. And I think a lot of people have sadly been in situations where something gets left behind, and sometimes it's the animals, because obviously it's getting yourself to safety and your child is absolutely paramount. But also then how we're already indoctrinated a little bit about how we're supposed to view dogs and their behavior. We're kind of indoctrinated how we see behavior, period, right? But especially with dogs. And it's that shifting through with those in each dog. Some of the stuff you're talking about now, of course, is you're looking back through the lens that you have now. But obviously at the time you were just like, well, I'm doing this kind of thing. But what is interesting is you didn't fall into that trap, if you like, or the norm of looking for compliance. Even in those early days, you weren't thinking, right, I'm going to take my dog out anyway, and then if he barks at a dog, I'll tell him off. Or every time I come back and my dog's ripped up another duvet, I'll tell him off. You were thinking, right, how do I stop that stress in the first place? So there was an element there, I think, of already starting to think about things differently. And of course, meeting Sheila would have been probably a bit of serendipity there, being a very good time to meet her, I guess. How did you come across Sheila then? How did you find Sheila?
Okay, well, I had an English Mastiff called Chaos, and the first puppy I ever had, I picked her, I'd never done anything like that before. And I thought, well, I'll breed from her. I'd like to experience having puppies, not personally, but and so I thought that would be a nice thing to do and be supportive with my dog and her puppies. I did wonder how I would get rid of the puppies, sell them. I didn't think that was something I could do. But anyway, so I knew that Chaos was going to be a big dog. So I thought, I really have to get this right. Having had a St. Bernard before, a rescued St. Bernard, who had issues with other dogs, and I walked her in fields away from the house as well. I thought, well, I need to have a dog that's bomb-proof, really, don't I? So I started off very enthusiastic, and I took her to puppy classes at the vet, socialization classes at the vet. So she was able to socialize with other dogs, other puppies. And then I took her to dog training as early as I possibly could, and then, I was quite good at dog training. So I started to train other people as well, how to clicker train their dogs. And I clicker trained Chaos, but however, it was all great in the village hall and stuff and on the field there. And she knew what to do. And as soon as we were in the fields again on our normal walks and somebody was coming towards us, a person or a dog, she would be just so scared. And I would kind of say behind, I can't, I have to be there and see this person. And then she'd lunge and bark, you see, as I got closer because she was fearful, because I'd socialized her really well with lots of people and lots of dogs and children, everything. So it was all too much for her. And so, she began to do that. So then I thought, well, I'll still carry on training people with their dogs, but I can't take Chaos there anymore. So I carried on taking Jaffa. And then, I went looking for other things. I went to various places, and one place I was told to pin her down. And I got home. When this was happening, when I was out and I was shown how to pin her down, my head was all scrambled. I thought, oh, is this real? Should I be doing it? What? Oh, I just didn't know what to do. And it went against the grain, really. So when I got home, I thought, no, I can't do this. And I'm glad I didn't, because yeah, the poor dog, what would she have thought? So she certainly wouldn't trust me. So,
Especially a dog that size is dangerous, isn't
I
it? I
know.
think because even
Yeah.
with an owner caregiver, the dog can still say, "This isn't good. This isn't what I
Yeah.
like." You know.
Yeah, that's right. And it could traumatize some dogs, you know, the
Mm.
person who's there to their safety is doing something like that. So fortunately, I didn't do that. But I did look around a fair bit and wanted to do various courses. I found a behaviourist actually, Julia Evans, and she was brilliant. She was the first person who showed me, oh, did you see that? Did you see that happened when you did that? And I'm thinking, what? You know, what happened? Her ear twitched or she blinked or, you know, something like that. I'm thinking, oh, really? Really? There's something in that, is there? So then she said, would you like to come with me to a Jurid Ruger's talk in Staffordshire? And I said, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And I liked what I heard. It made quite a lot of sense. And I met Sheila Harper there. And then after that, I thought, well, what do I do? Where do I go? I want more of this. And so I signed up for some Sheila Harper courses. And she helped me so much with chaos and seeing things at a distance. Oh, so they see them at a distance, but they don't have to meet, you know, and it's our agenda to meet and everything else. But what's the dog's agenda? And oh, it's just fascinating. I just loved it. And it was so what the dogs needed, you know, and thinking of them, like I put them both in the van together, Jaffa and Chaos, in the same crate. And somebody said bluntly, and I asked for her to tell me, I said, please tell me what you're thinking. And she said, it's obvious Jaffa doesn't like being in there with Chaos. And as soon as she said it, I knew, but you know, why haven't I seen that before? But anyway, that was the start of my journey. So
And what we don't know, we can't see, and I think this is really
no,
important. And just listening, talking there, of course, mentioning Turid and Sheila, this notion of, you know, this kind of new conversation has been framing. It's not new at all, really. There's,
yeah,
you know, Sheila and Turid and others have been, for a long time, as in decades, been talking
yeah,
about observations first, learning from the dog
that's it.
first.
Yeah,
And what's interesting, listening to your part of the story there, was that you when you started doing the training, you were very much in that kind of operant landscape. You
yeah,
happened to be using clicker and positive reinforcement initially, which is really good. And I guess that
yeah,
was
yeah,
quite ahead of the time then, in a way, going
yeah,
back along. But
yeah,
then you went to people who were showing you a different way of doing it in a more aversive way, but it was still stuck in that operant lens. And it was going to see here Turid, which is pushing that to one side and saying, well, what's the dog going to say about it? What is this
yeah,
individual dog and what are their needs? And Sheila Harper, I got Sheila on to Dog Centre Care actually for one of the first conversations, because talk about an authentic voice.
yeah.
And Linda Rugas, I haven't spoken to Turid sadly, but Linda is very much carrying on with her mother's amazing work. So yeah, so I just, anybody who's listening, check out the Sheila Harper conversation, because it was a really good one, and it was a real joy to have Sheila come and have a chat. And we'll make sure we put some links to Sheila's work as well when we put this out, for sure. So good. So you were influenced by Sheila then, and that was the big shift for you. So tell us a little bit, share with us, what is that change in ideology, philosophy then? What was it that really hit you about what was different about that approach?
It was dog-centered. It was dog-centered more than human-centered. Before it was, well, my dog's doing this, how can I stop it? And it was tools to stop the dog doing this, that, and the other, you know, using food and stuff. And it was, I'll tell you, it was really hard not to use food. It was kind of like, ooh, what do we do here? Help, you know. But yeah, it was an interesting journey. Sorry, I got distracted. All three dogs are in the room with me. They chose to come in.
We do
So
that. I've got two in mind at the moment.
Oh, okay.
One is yet to come in. That's Molly, the young one. So it
Oh,
could get
yeah.
very interactive if she comes in and decides she
Yeah,
wants to
that's
come and say
right.
hi.
Yeah, likewise. We'll see what happens, shall we? Yeah.
It's interesting, you say about the food, because I know, having spoken to Sheila and others who wanted to do things from a dog-centered point of view, as you say, looking at things, giving the dog chance. That when you think about a lot of things that the amazing Laura Donaldson talks about with her slow thinking, this is very much part of that ethos, which is, well, let's just slow things down, let the dog do some processing, and let's not muddy the waters by throwing some food in, because but it's interesting again, because I think the dog training world was looking so heavily through an operant lens. That's where people say, well, that's not reinforcement, that's not positive reinforcement, so therefore by proxy it's aversive, which is an odd thing when you think about it. But when people are looking through that lens and they're like, you don't use food, you don't have a loose leash, all these kind of things that kind of people associate with how it should be, again, in a very human focused, human narrative way, it was hugely revolutionary, Rosie.
Yeah. It was scary. It was scary at first, but it's a really good way to go for the dogs, because then you can see the true dog. You're not, they haven't got food on their mind all the time, whereas I could see that a lot with Jaffa and Chaos and Dogs Are Trained. It was, well, how do I get the food, and when's the food coming? And there's always that, waiting, and they can't be free to be themselves because they're expecting something. And the way they look at you, it's, do I get something for this then, or that, or and they weren't sure. And I had a problem, especially with Jaffa, with the food thing, because of the eye contact, and I didn't realize I was doing all of that, but she did. And so I had to break away and not look at her on purpose so that she could be herself on a walk, which was sad, really.
So actually this is about unlearning then. You had to go through some unlearning, and so did your dogs, actually.
Yeah, that's it. And we came to a better place in the end, because we could be ourselves without thinking, oh, I can reward them for that, or reward them for this, and they weren't always expecting things. And some dogs have been really foodie, like one of my dogs at the moment, Cuzzy, he was really foodie. I know he's been trained with food. I could tell the way he was acting when I was trying to do some tracking with him the one day. And I went to go and put some food down. He knew I had the food, and the way he was acting was like he'd done it all before, So, it was just interesting to see some of his background coming out at that time, because I didn't know about that. So,
And it's and especially when we take on a rescue, there are so many things that have so many layers on that animal.
That's right,
their story has been rewritten by the human often, and we just have to give it time to show us, give the animals to give us more time. And I know with Molly, our young lab, who came to us quite early, about 16 weeks, we made a conscious effort to do very minimal from a functional point of view, functional training point of view with her, and just to give her a chance to kind of explore the world and build things up. And it's just been a real joy to have a dog that we haven't had to go through unlearning with, and just to see it. And she's not some wild feral thing that doesn't listen to anybody or do anything. She's really good, even at 13 months. I think she's now 14 months. She's really well regulated, and she chooses things, and she does stuff when she's ready. And it's interesting, isn't it, Rosie, how people say, oh, when they first contact us, oh, well, my dog will do it, but in their own, on their terms, or as though that's a bad thing. I think it's an important thing, right, to feel safe.
Yes. It is. People ask me about recall, my dog, somebody recently said, oh, this dog's recall is no good, you know, that's why I don't want her, she's no good, she just needs some training, perhaps with food or something. Anyway, so and then he asked me, what about your dog's recall? I said, well, it depends what they're doing at the time, actually, when I call them, because I'm fair with them, and I call them when they're not engrossed in something, or I go over. If they're engrossed, I will go over and you know, persuade them to come away, kind of thing, but only after they've done so much of what they want to do, if I need them. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not going to call them when they're in the middle of something. It's like somebody interrupting you when you're doing something really important. So you either finish it, or, you know, coaxed away slowly, or not coax, that's the wrong word. I find that when I give to my dogs and allow them to do something, these are all the wrong words, by the way, not allow, they're doing something. And when I go with that, and then if I ask them, have you finished now, or can we go, they'll come. Do you know what I mean? Because I haven't said, no, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can do that for a certain time, and then we'll go. And it works. It really works. So
and it's providing the safe opportunities to do these things, because I think you know, when is the dog truly able to just kind of shake off the human expectational stuff and just be and just do their thing? And we might have a dog that's off leash, but if a part of that nervous system is waiting for us to call them over again, has been, you know, having to connect to a lot of the cues that we give and all these kind of things, it's not truly a dog who's just engaging and thinking, oh, I'm really enjoying this scent here, and I want to feel that I have time to enjoy it
that's right,
before I move on. And so this brings us nicely then into what created your own, with the influences of working with chaos and the influences of Turin and Sheila, of how that formulated for yourself your own kind of philosophy, really. And this is what I love about discussing, because there's nothing new under the sun, right? I think this is, sadly, we have, as some people want to try and grab a narrative and kind of own it. But what is new and unique is how our individualness filters that, and what we see as an outlook, you know, and that's the beauty and the richness in having these conversations, because people can listen to them and take the threads away that they want to for their own way of filtering and their own outlook. So if you were to think then about what that rounded view of your philosophy looked like then when it came to dogs, what was it that really made you think, yeah, I want to do this professionally, I want to do this isn't just a pastime, this isn't just me being Chaos's mom, this is about me thinking there is something really visceral here for me, is regarding what this means?
I think from my own experiences and the way I relate to things, I relate things, if I don't understand a human thing, I relate it to dogs, and I understand it through dogs. Through dogs, I understand humans better. And it all, through dogs, children, and dogs and children mainly, I kind of understand things better. And I kind of felt that everybody needed to know how dogs communicate, and try and relate it to them. At first it was poo-pooed that you don't relate children and dogs, you mustn't say that kind of thing, but the two went hand in hand, really.
I do.
So
I'm glad you said that. I just want to say that because I know in dog centered care, there's a lot of people now showing a lot more stuff. Oh, this is about children, but totally applies to dogs. And it's interesting. Sometimes you get people saying, well, I wish people would stop talking about dogs and children, they're separate and everything else. But when we think about what we've learned the hard way, actually, through child educational and developmental psychology and where we're at now, there are huge overlays here, aren't there?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, it's all so closely connected. Not everything, of course, but largely, yeah, there are connections all the time. And it actually helped. Learning what I was learning from Sheila about dogs, it helped me bring up my son better, have a better understanding of him as a teenager. And I know it sounds silly, but that's where I got my human education from. So, you know, because we're not taught this stuff really, unless we're lucky.
And it's not silly because I know, as you know, I do my little unpacking the emotional experience workshop, which you've come along to, and one of the big feedbacks I get from attendees is that this is not about dogs; it's about us. It's about how we interact with each other, and especially how we connect to self and our own behaviour and our own pressures and our own dysregulation. You know, because we kind of pass that on to our dogs, actually, especially in the crazy times we live now. And so I can totally see how that would help to inform you about bringing up your son and how you engage with him in his developmental stages, and how much he needs to learn to self-regulate, and how much experimental learning is important, which includes pushing boundaries, actually, when we think about adolescence, for sure.
Yeah.
So this brings on then to your first book, which is the Understanding the Silent Communication of Dogs.
Yeah.
So that's a big step, isn't it, Rosie? Because we have these passions, and you know, I've been trying to write a book for God knows how long. So I really have got so much, you know, so much praise for people who can do it, because you sit in front of that screen and it's just a blank thing. Did you, or a page if you're using a typewriter, I suppose. What made you think, right, I want to write a book on this? I'm going to put a book out.
I started working with clients and doing handouts, and I wanted to say so much. And I couldn't say it all in a handout. Anyway, Marilyn was editing my handouts for me very kindly. She'd been great and supportive, as has Colin as well. He's been another really supportive person in my life, and helped me with the changes. That's it. He is.
Yes.
Yeah. I did marry him, and
good. Well, he's a good one. So you got to.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's great, and he's been part of my freedom in life. It was only when I discovered, well, Sheila Harper and Colin and the whole lot, it all kind of came together, and I stopped doing lots of things like drinking and smoking, and I started to become an adult, I guess. And yeah, it was great. So, as I was saying, Marilyn was doing the editing of the handouts, and then we thought, should we do a booklet then? And what a good idea. Well, the booklet kind of grew a bit and a bit and a bit. Anyway, so yeah, Understanding the Silent Communication of Dogs was born. And basically I did it for several reasons, and that was for clients so that they could have something ahead of time, because I found that clients didn't really know what to expect, because this was a bit different. And yeah, some of them really weren't expecting that. No matter what I said, it didn't seem to hit home until I was there and I'd said stuff and shown them stuff, and they were thinking, oh, you know, this isn't what I expected. So the book was there ahead of time. Now, if they liked the book, then they would get in touch and, you know, we'd meet up and have sessions together. And that worked so much better for them. And well, for all of us, really. And then also, I felt it was really important to get this message out. I just had to get this message out. And I kept saying to Sheila, oh, write a book, Sheila. You've got to write a book. But she's so busy doing everything else that you need to set time aside for a book. And I don't think she had any time at that time. And so yeah, that was another reason for writing a book.
And what, you know, when I read it, it really blew me away on several levels. Really, one is just how beautiful it is, because,
Okay.
and I think you know, it just looks the part. You know, it has a quality to it,
Yeah.
and in an age of a lot of no disrespect to the kind of Amazon produced things, but it just feels, it's an important, for me, it's an important topic, and the book feels that it supports that importance, and it's great to hold, and you really feel the kind of a richness through the book itself, I feel. And also the way that you wrote it was almost like a storytelling narrative about the dog. You didn't feel like you're reading an instruction manual, or
No, that's
you know,
right. Yeah.
so
Which
you
some
can't.
people want, of course. Some people do want an instruction manual, but all dogs are individuals, and that's why I haven't given too much advice, really, because every dog is different, and every person and their situation is different. So yeah.
And that comes across in the book very much, because the book is very much about, let's have a think about dogs, and let's think about what this might mean for your dog and your relationship, and it has a very storytelling narrative. I feel, you know, you can imagine you just talking to somebody about it. It's not, as I say, it's not something that's designed to be one step detached from the reader. It's very much as though you are talking to the reader about
Yeah.
the wonder of dogs. Really, was that a deliberate thing, or was it just how it turned out, just how you write?
Just how I am, I think, really. Yeah, as if I was talking to somebody. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that definitely comes across. And it was really well received, Rosie.
Sorry?
It was very well received.
Yes,
Yes.
it was.
Mm.
Yeah. And that really surprised both Marilyn and I, that it was, you know, people were asking to translate it, and yeah, it was just going all over the place. And the latest edition actually is a French one, and that's just about, well, I think it's at the printers now. So yeah, I'm very happy with that.
And I guess it was, like I said, there's nothing else quite like it on the market, I guess. There's a lot of, you know, you could fill a bookshelf with dog training books, and but I suppose Turid's books is something that is out there, and I guess your work really built on that, you know, kind of expanded on that, I guess.
Yeah, I love Turid's book, and it really explained it in a good, simple way, and how it is, and that's what I loved about On Talking Terms with Dogs, and yeah. But I felt it had to be accessible for clients, and also that it was easy to pick up and put down, and they could think about it. Lots of pictures as well.
Yeah.
There are more books out there like that now, you know, with loads of photos and stuff. I think they're really helpful.
And it's a book you feel you want to read. That's what I felt when I first saw it. I thought, yeah, I really want to read this. So if we jump on to a few years later, and your other book took the Tale of a Big Dog.
Yeah.
About Hagrid.
Yes.
Which I really loved the opportunity to have a look at the book before it went out. Tell us about what motivated you. I'm going to write about this. This is. I've got another book in me here. I'm going to write about Hagrid's story.
Somebody suggested I write a story about him, actually, about his life, and yeah, bring other things into it as well. Basically, a holistic guide to living with your dog. That's kind of what I feel it is. But Hagrid is a main character throughout, because I just felt that was a good way to write about him and his life, really, and the other dogs, and how we integrate dogs into the house, and how we respect our animals' emotional well-being, and try and help both dogs as they settle in, because a new dog will want time to process what is this place all about? So if they have somewhere where they can observe, and so I go into that. I go into all kinds of things, just every aspect of Hagrid's life, really. And yeah.
And again, you've written it in a very kind of storytelling narrative. And what I loved about it was that obviously you've got Hagrid as a central character, which you take to Hagrid very quickly. So I think that's always good because, but very cleverly, I think you used Hagrid as the kind of main protagonist, if you like, about looking at recognizing and identifying and supporting the individual dog's care and support needs.
Yeah.
So you looked at things from a Hagrid point of view, but also then generalize it enough so that people could recognize that for their own dogs and recognize the importance of decompression time, being able to process, looking at early signs of stress, how you can support the environment. All those kind of things come out from the book.
Yeah. When you have a new dog, it's not always easy in the beginning. There's that time of settling in, and that kind of thing, where you get used to each other, and then you can enjoy each other, kind of thing. It was a lovely relationship, I guess. And yeah.
And I think it's something it's a really important message, actually, which doesn't, I think it might get talked about a little bit more now, but just the importance of giving time, especially for these new dogs who come in, because there's so much for them to process, of course, a new environment, both within the home and externally, feeling safe within the new social structure. A lot of dogs will give kind of fun appeasement behaviors to deal with stuff, so it looks like oh my god, they love us already, but in fact they don't.
Right.
But also we don't give ourselves enough time, to actually learn who we've welcomed into our home. Who are you? And of course that dog will change as the weeks go on, as they decompress and that kind of thing, and it's just giving everybody more time. It's a shame that there's a figure of around 20%, I think it is, the dogs that end up being returned to shelters, to rescues, and there could be all sorts of reasons for that, but I think a lot of the time it's because the dog just didn't have enough time, or they had extra things to deal with. So on that first day they're down the beach with the dog, or they're inviting all the family round to see them, or it's just too much for them.
Oh, definitely. And we have a new dog at the moment and trying to settle her in, and it's been 3 weeks, and she's still not integrated with the other dogs. She's had a very different life to them. Well, I don't know what their previous lives were, but they're all settled, and so we're ensuring that she's settled first before she's integrated with them, and that will happen very slowly. It's already started a little bit when she escaped. And she ran straight into the house. I was so happy. She didn't run off. She said, I want to be in there with them. So that's a good start, but she's not ready. They're not ready. She's not ready to be integrated. It will happen just for very short times when everything's calm, and then she'll go back. She can see everything that's going on in the house. She can hear everything that's going on in the house, and she's petrified of sounds and stuff, but she can't come in at the moment because it's too close for her. These sounds and sights and stuff, it's a bit too close, so she's one step removed, if you see what I mean. And that's helping her grow. She's already grown in height, and her tail is up now as opposed to between her legs, and she's not slithering along the ground anymore. So it's nice to see her develop. You must have seen that with Molly as well.
Oh yeah, hugely. And I think all the dogs that have kind of found their way to us, giving them the time. We need to. This is a big part of the ethos that you hold dear, I know, is we have to learn from them first before we can expect them to learn anything else. And that decompression time is important. And also, you can't I see it as being multiple nervous systems at play. So there's you and Colin and your existing dogs and the new dog.
Yeah.
To have a chance, those nervous systems need to be in kind of the same place or thereabouts. And when Molly came crashing in to our lives, of course,
that's it. Yeah.
for Arthur, especially the older dog, he was like, I don't want to be doing this. So we had to be just as mindful about their needs as Molly's, really, and making sure that we could separate, and there's separate places, and there were exits, and there was a structure to things. And the same would be for us, though. If I just suddenly turned up on your doorstep, Rosie, and said, "Oh, Kieran's kicked me out. I need to come and stay for a bit." It's going to be a bit fractious, right, until everybody settles into things. I'm not going to turn up, by the
way. You'd be welcome.
But we've all had that situation. We've all had family members that have ended up having to crash with us for a bit, and it gets a bit fractious because nobody's prepared for it, and it's a lot of things to work out.
It is. It's difficult, isn't it? It's your whole routine is turned upside down, and especially for the dog that's come in.
And we see a lot, don't we? So you've got a couple of dogs maybe in a household. One of the older one sadly passes away, and then the caregiver thinks, "Oh, my other one's going to be lonely, so we must get them a friend." So they bring a puppy in. And it's a lot to process for these dogs, especially when they're older.
And often they're together, aren't they? 24 hours a day. Oh, that's so hard.
Oh God, when Molly first came, I think Harley and Arthur would have left. I think they'd have found a way out because it's too full on. They all get on really well now. Of course, Molly's matured now, and they've worked things out. And this is where we have to kind of stay connected to the changes that we see, because her preferences, her social preferences, her processing preferences for sure, have also changed over time. Now, obviously, she came as a puppy, but it would have been the same if she would have been an adult rescue rather than a puppy rescue. It would have been the same thing. And we just have to allow that growth, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's protecting both, isn't it? Until they're ready to accept each other fully. And the kind of the more time you take over it, the more settled they'll be. And so, for example, when Halo came in, she came in and I said, "Oh, Colin, we have 4 dogs in the house." And the other 3 were just lying there, and she was just having a look around. "Oh, what's this? What's that?" And it was quite casual, and I was doing stuff in the kitchen. So we keep leads around. So I managed to clip a lead onto her. Not immediately. I didn't panic or anything. I just took my time, clipped a lead on her, walked around with her for a bit. Then we went outside. Then we had a little walk and took her back in where she was, which is a room downstairs. And she goes up the stairs to have a look into the house. So, it was all quite normal and natural. And these little things that happen, it's all helpful to the dogs. It has been so far, touch wood. So, yeah.
And also, I think, what we made sure that we had a lot of stuff from Molly olfactorily that Arthur and Harley, especially Arthur, could process separately, safely. And that was a big help because they didn't have to get close to each other to, if Arthur wanted to go and have a sniff, he's got a puppy on his face now, so he couldn't get close enough to kind of do the processing. And just little things like that take time. But they do make a big difference. And I think slowing things down for those early weeks gives you a better chance, I think, of getting things to work out.
Right. Oh, definitely. If you have the chance, definitely use these things. It's a good introduction, and you often can get a good idea of how a dog feels about another dog by the way they smell the items from the other dog. You get a good idea of how it might go. So,
Well, Rosie.
For this dog, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on, Dave. Yeah, go
on. For this dog, Halo, she was just brought round and they wouldn't take her back. So we kind of got stuck with her. So it was just I said, oh, can't we do it tomorrow when we've had time to plan? Well, I can't take her home. I can't take her home. And I'm a soft touch, and I'd seen her squirming on the ground, and I thought, I'm okay, we'll manage somehow. And so we did. So the dogs didn't have as much time to get used to her. She was in a van for a few days. She was used to living outside. So they got to smell where she'd been, and they saw her, as they can see from here. And so they had a bit of an introduction, but not how I would have planned it. But things don't always go according to plan either. And you do the best you can in the situation you're given. So, yeah.
And I remember when we spoke last, I think Halo just arrived and was still stuck in the van. You were waiting to decompress enough to be able to make those first connections with her. And I think when you get a dog who is potentially shut down, potentially traumatized, you know, or in a very kind of stress state like that, you realize that you can't just dive in with expectations and food and asking for things. You have to work where their nervous system is and support it.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And food was a big thing for her because she hadn't had too much of it, enough, or the right type, you know. And yeah, I don't think she will be a foodie dog. Yeah, I just don't think she will be. I think it's that her body, her everything needs food. Do you know what I mean? All of her. She just, because she hasn't had enough. I think she'd only had one meal a day, and it was kibble. So her life is changing slowly. I didn't race out and change that quickly either. I didn't go, here you are, have lots of food. It's been a gradual thing that she's had more meals, but the same food to start with, and then adding vegetables into it, which she loves. And yeah, gradually she's changing over to what the others are eating, which is some form of meat and vegetables, and sometimes cooked potatoes in it, or pasta, or quinoa, that kind of thing, you know, mixing things into it, and millet as well. So
well, she's a lucky girl to have found you, Rosie. I think you know,
I think she might think that already. Let's hope. Let's hope
I'm
it
sure.
continues to get better for her. It's nice to do that for her anyway.
Well, thank you so much for today, Rosie. That's you know, the hour's flown by there. And just so for people who listen, we'll make sure we put some links in with the recording and things. But Laid Back Dogs, that's the place to find everything Rosie, isn't it?
That's it. Yes, yes, and meet the team as well. You'll meet the whole team, dogs included. So
that's
yeah,
www.laid, is it laidbackdogs.co.uk?
laidbackdogs.com.
Oh, .com, brilliant.
Yeah.
Laidbackdogs.com.
Yeah.
Oh, Rosie, it's been an absolute pleasure today, and I'm so glad we had a chance to chat, and also to highlight your wonderful books, and hopefully those who haven't had a chance to look at them yet will be able to get hold of a copy, and those who do have them might think, oh, I haven't read that for a bit. I'll have another look at that. Thank you so much for your time today, Rosie.
Well,
and
thank you, Andy. It's been great chatting to you. Each time I've chatted to you, it's been really lovely. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rosie. You take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Yeah, bye, Andy. Bye.